Yes, you've read the title. Just 9 months after the release of the first Wreckreation game, Wreckreation 2 has been announced. Oh boy. For those who don't remember, Wreckreation was an arcade racing game that released in October of 2025, and let's be honest, it was hot garbage. It had bad handling, the open world was barren, the AI was all over the place. It was a weak imitation of what the Burnout series was. And now, instead of fixing it, they're selling a new one. Let's look at the trailer. Now, at first glance, this looks okay. We're seeing vehicle collisions, we're seeing a bit of an upgrade in graphical fidelity. It looks like the crashes in particular look nicer, but, and it's a big but, if you've seen the first 10 seconds of this trailer, you've pretty much seen all of it. All we see is cars door banging, cinematic shots of the same thing, and then some crashes, and that's about it. We've got this new city setting, which I personally think is a big improvement over the first game. The vehicles do look a little bit weighty. I think the camera effects are a little bit too much, but like the first game, there isn't really a sense of speed here, and when you think back to classic Burnout titles like Burnout 3 Takedown, the sense of speed is one of the highlights, and we just see none of it here. By the end of this trailer, I was just left thinking, is that it? It looks like the original game, just with a few surface level improvements. Are they really going to try and sell this to us as a brand new title? Because if they are, Also, looking at the comments of this trailer on IGN, is it me, or are they a bit suspect? There's lots of positive comments saying, finally, a next-gen Burnout game we've all been waiting for. I really miss Burnout. Hopefully this will cover the last one's issues. Welcome back, Burnout. Did these people see the first game, play the first game? Because if they had, I'd be very surprised that they're this excited. Next, we see this gameplay footage, and let's be honest, this race intro looks pretty decent. I kind of like the light sequence. Race starts look okay, but then, oh my goodness, what is this UI? The UI of the first Wreckreation game was terrible, and if anything, they've made it even worse. Now, I know this is very early. Supposedly, they've been working on this game for 3 months, which, if that is the case, only 6 months after the first Wreckreation game released, they started working on the second one. I'll let you come to your own conclusions about that. But look at this screen. We've got position counter in the top left, we've got street names at the top, we've got times, progression counters in the top right, we have weather and time of day and distance driven and a map and a speedometer and a scrolling bar of info across the bottom, all of these stunts and skills in the bottom left alongside our nitrous bar. It is just an absolute mess. Now, it's a little unfair to compare this against a game with a much bigger budget and a much bigger team, but since I've been making a lot of content on it recently, let's look at Forza Horizon 6. It's simple, it's clean. We've got our speedometer in the bottom right, we've got our map in the bottom left, we've got our progress counter and a timer in the top left, our position in the top right, and our skills in the center. That's it. It's clean, it's easy to understand, it's easy to consume, and ultimately, it focuses you on the racing. Now, as I've said, the graphical improvements of Wreckreation 2 that we see in this trailer do look nice, but when the screen is this busy, it's just overwhelming. It's not helped by the fact that there's about 5 different fonts on this screen. You've got this angular font in the top left, this more readable one in the top middle, another different font for the AI overheads, the LED board style font for the speedometer, and this sort of impact style font for your skills. It's just a hodgepodge of different styles, different ideas, and it just creates a muddy and confused visual experience. Let's look at the game itself, shall we? And the first thing I noticed was the flames coming out the rear of this green car. They don't seem to be actually coming out of the exhaust, they seem to be appearing just in front of it, which admittedly might be a nitpick, but it doesn't look very good, and it's a bit of a sign of things to come. The next thing I noticed were the sparks when cars hit each other, but to me, it just looks like they're covering up the fact that the car collisions don't look all that good. We see a couple of side-on-side collisions, a couple of front-on-rear collisions where there isn't really any damage imparted on either of the cars involved. Speaking of vehicle collisions, we see a lot of side-on-side action. The AI does look more aggressive than the first Wreckreation game, but the collisions look a bit bouncy. They look like if you were to throw a bouncy ball against a wall, it would just come straight back at you, and that's kind of what the car collisions look like here. Now, we've learned that there are 30 vehicles that you'll be able to drive, to upgrade, and to unlock a whole range of customization options, and that is great. Especially when other games out there don't have a lot of customizations out there right now. I'm looking at you, Forza Horizon 6. It's nice to know that this game will have a bit more of a focus on that. I do think that this end of race finish line looks a lot better than the first game, but then we go into the post-race screen, and again, this just looks really dated. Now yes, limited team, limited budget, limited resources, but that's no excuse for a game to look like it's 20 years old. I know they're inspired by Burnout and we haven't seen a Burnout game in 15 years, but that doesn't mean your UI should look quite this amateur, quite this old, quite this basic. Alongside that trailer and gameplay footage, we have this article on Traction, and it talks about Wreckreation 2 being a new open-world arcade racer from these ex-Burnout developers, targeting 2027. So that would be, at its longest, just 2 years since the first title was released. The game is set in a new open world called Heartbreak City. Ironic, because the game was pretty heartbreaking for those that played it, and it will feature city streets, docks, and an airport. It goes on to say that the team is taking a back-to-basics approach. Whereas the first game was set in a large open world with track creation tools, the sequel is smaller in scale but more focused as a result. Over the last 6 months, we spent a lot of time talking to players, moderators, and each other about what worked and what didn't about Wreckreation, said When Tides turned studio head and executive producer Fiona Sperry. And we kept coming back to the same conclusion. We didn't need a bigger game, we just needed a more focused one. Now, yes, I agree, you should have gone for a more focused game rather than a bigger one, but I'm surprised it took you that long to figure this out. Why should we, as consumers, have to spend our hard-earned money for you to learn what, in essence, seems like a pretty straightforward lesson? If you'd been able to work this out from the beginning, you would have saved yourself some time, and we, the players, would have saved ourselves some money. According to Sperry, Wreckreation 2 is being developed around 5 key pillars. Number 1, a world built for racing, battling, and crashing. So in essence, a good world. I agree. Number 2, driving that feels physical. Now, the handling was one of the biggest criticisms of the first game, so if they're working on having heavier, more impactful handling this time around, then that's definitely a good thing. Number 3, every race is a battle. Now, I'm not sure about this one. My personal favourite game of the Burnout series is Burnout 3 Takedown. And whilst taking down your rivals was a big part of that game, whether you're in a circuit race, a sprint race, a road rage event, battling and wrecking your rivals felt like a strong addition to what was on its own a brilliant racing game. If you take away the wrecking aspect from a game like Burnout 3 Takedown, you still have a pretty decent arcade racing game. Whereas I feel if you took the wrecking out of Wreckreation 2, you wouldn't really have a game worth playing. Number 4, cars players grow attached to. Now, having a limited car count and the ability to customize your cars will definitely help with that. So again, good sign. And number 5, a player-led creative community. I feel like one of the biggest pitfalls of the first game was its focus on user-generated content. And whereas I understand that's going to take a bit of a back seat with Wreckreation 2, I still wouldn't say that leaning on this idea of a player-led creative community will necessarily result in a game that players actually want to play. Wreckreation 2 is set in a new map called Heartbreak City, with a coastal setting reminiscent of Paradise City in Burnout Paradise. Now, the footage we've seen so far definitely gives me Burnout Paradise vibes. It's a very poor imitation, but I can see what they're aiming for, so this makes sense. Alongside the coastal highways and mountain areas seen in the first game, the new location features more urban areas with industrial districts, busy city streets, an airport, and docks. Now, in the gameplay that I've seen so far, I've only seen the inner city locations, but this is worded in a very intriguing way. Alongside the coastal highways and mountain areas seen in the first game. Does that mean the map of the second game is basically an evolution of the first game with many of the same locations, or is it an entirely new map for us? That's something that's important for us to know. In a welcome improvement to the first game's often barren location, the traffic is denser and the environment is littered with landmarks and destructible objects. Great! The world does look more dense and it does look a lot better than Wreckreation 1. We're not starting from a very high base, but it is an improvement. Cars feel heavier than before, making battling with rivals feel more visceral. Likewise, AI opponents are more aggressive and vehicle damage is vastly improved, with improved bodywork deformation and more detachable parts, including wheels flying off. Now again, like I said earlier, the damage does look good, but side-by-side collisions with a car on a straight don't appear to impart any visual damage. Heavier feeling cars? Good. AI that is more aggressive and probably quicker? Good. When Tide's Turn revealed how a car can evolve from a standard model to a drag racer with lowered suspension, a roll cage, and an exposed supercharger. Now, I admire the fact that they want cars to be able to be driven in several different ways, but, and I would stress this, it is much more important that they just get the core handling model correct. In a game such as this, it's circuit races and sprint races that the player is going to be spending the majority of their time doing. And ultimately, if that doesn't feel good, then players won't stick around for long enough to experience the drag characteristics of a car and these different aspects of customization. Personally, I'd prefer if they just took the drag aspect out of the game entirely and put all of their efforts into the handling model for the main game. But let's see how they do. If we go off trying to also do track racing as we found in Wreckreation 1, it takes the focus away from that battle racing, said Sperry. Whilst this aspect is not the main focus yet, creation tools allowing players to build, customize, and share their own routes, events, and challenges are still planned for the final. Oh my god. Customization is great, but you need great core gameplay first. There's no point having these user-generated content options in the game if the handling and the default events and race locations aren't worthwhile to play. Previously teased as an unreleased mode in the first game, a Burnout-style crash mode, currently dubbed Accident Black Spot, is also planned, alongside an Eliminator mode and the return of Marked Man and Pursuit modes. Again, a crash-style mode, great idea, but they need to get the core racing experience great first. Uniquely, the developer is collaborating with the community, with selected players providing feedback from private playtests to help shape the game. And it's good to hear that they're listening and they're collaborating with the community. And I know there's some influencers in the space that are working with the team in these private playtests, but ultimately, their input is only going to be worthwhile if we get a good game on the other side. It's all well and good having this input, but when Tide's Turn need the talent to enact on that feedback. And from what we saw with the first game, unfortunately, I don't have high hopes. While the sequel is at an early stage of development as a proof of concept, Wreckreation 2 is targeting a 2027 release window for PC, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S. When Tide's Turn is self-publishing the sequel, with additional funding secured from a UK grant. The studio is also seeking further investment from other partners, including angel investors. I don't want to disparage the studio or downplay their efforts, but if I was a potential angel investor with knowledge of racing video games and I looked at this, I'd be looking the other way. Our team has decades of experience together and separately over 30 plus games shipped between us, 20 of those in arcade driving. We want to become the leading independent studio serving arcade racing players. We want to build the games that these players have been asking for, which is about returning to the feelings that make arcade racing compelling. Now, this is a sweet sentiment, don't get me wrong, but given how disappointing Wreckreation was, especially from a team that they say have shipped over 30 plus games, 20 of them in arcade driving, how can they seriously say that they want to become the leading independent studio serving arcade racing players? Now, don't get me wrong, I want them to prove me wrong, but right now, this just sounds like a bad joke. With a renewed focus on the fundamental driving, carnage, and urban city, map Wreckreation 2, this is so badly written. With a renewed focus on the fundamental driving, carnage, and urban city map, Wreckreation 2 could become the successor to Burnout Paradise arcade racing fans have been eagerly awaiting for. A brilliant twofer there, a joke from Traction, and an example of the state of racing game journalism in 2026. I hope they're joking there, they can't be serious, right? Now, in all the content I've seen from early playtesters, they have stressed that this is very early footage. My question is, why are they sharing it? This is just 9 months after the first game released, and from what I understand, they started working on Wreckreation 2 about 3 months ago. And in that time, it's clear that they've used the first game as a base and made a few small iterations that the community have been asking for. But with that said, I don't know why they thought now was a good time to share this. The original game captured none of the feeling of Burnout, and honestly, it's an insult to compare the two. And as someone who played the first game, I'm pissed that after just 6 months, they took my money and decided, hey, this game's not doing well, let's create a new one. Oh man, I just don't understand who on their team thought this was a good idea right now. Like, yeah, by all means, if you think your best plan of action is to take the suggestions from the community, add them to the first game, and create a sequel, then be my guest, go for it. But don't show off what you've built after just 3 months of working on it. It looks way too similar to the first game, and aside from a few areas where it does look like there's been improvements, it just looks like more of the same. And the first game was crap. I admire the team's tenacity to stick with it. And as I've said, I hope they can prove me wrong and deliver a truly fantastic arcade racing game inspired by those classic Burnout titles of old. But to me, it feels like they're fumbling at every step. If they'd kept this quiet for now and came to us at the end of the year, having worked with those private playtesters for about 6 months and making fundamental changes from the first game, then I might be looking at it in a different way. But showing us this now? Frankly, that's just an insult. I wish the team the best of luck, but I'm going to need to see a lot more to get excited for, let alone recommend checking out Wreckreation 2. Quick edit, it's a little later in the day. I am recording this on July the 21st, the day that the trailer and all of the sort of influencer content for Wreckreation 2 has come out, and everybody's glazing it. All the usual suspects are glazing it and saying that they're excited for this coming up and professing that they're one of the people testing Wreckreation 2 and that they're involved and helping to shape this game. When did it become acceptable for any studio, regardless of the situation, to sell a game, completely drop it 9 months later, and then try to get you hyped so you buy their sequel? To be honest, that is an absolute travesty. You guys, as the racing game community, deserve better than that, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is a game that you should be excited for, or one that you should spend your hard-earned money getting once it releases, at least on what we've seen so far. It's yet another game these developers are trying to sell to you because it is a spiritual successor to Burnout. You guys in the racing game community deserve better than this. I mean, where's the integrity? Where's the honesty? Where's the calling a spade a spade? We need more good racing games, and I hope this one is the arcade racer we want it to be. But look at their track record. Look at what they're telling us. Look at how early they're eager to get us involved and invested and excited for this new title, whilst putting in, honestly, what looks like the bare minimum of work. I don't know, man. Hey, if I'm wrong, but this, to me, this ain't it, man. What do you guys think? Have I been too harsh, or do you agree with me? Let me know down in the comments if you played the first game and what you would like to see in Wreckreation 2. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe, and here's another video for you to enjoy.